And I think the only negative performance feedback I received was that I didn't demonstrate a entrepreneurial mindset because I didn't offer certain people water.
Hello, clowns. I'm Ami.
I'm Chen, and we're the hosts of Clown Vibes Podcast.
We're two best friends who get together to laugh and discuss a variety of topics.
From all things pop culture to navigating through adulthood as Asian Americans and more, with our own clown spin, of course.
We're so glad to have you here to clown around with us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. Hey, clowns, welcome back for episode 3. Honestly surprised and proud of us for making it here.
We've been working overtime in our jobs as the personality hire and as resident clowns of this podcast.
My job for every meeting is to leave in a funny way. Like these days, I've just been throwing up the peace sign to leave while everyone's waving.
Yeah. So this is my first week at my new job, and every day I have a check-in with my boss, and I'm just like, how do I make her laugh? And it's like having a talk with my therapist. I'm like, how do I make her laugh?
Have you made her laugh?
Yes, she laughs at success. Okay. She's laughed at every single joke I've tried to make.
Okay. Is it a pity laugh or like genuine? Or you can't tell yet because you don't know.
I think it's genuine because I think I'm hilarious. But who knows?
Okay. Speaking of jokes, have you been seeing all the crazy stuff about Netflix and their new policies on password sharing? I feel like that's all I've been seeing on Twitter and TikTok the past couple of days. Well, actually, today, I don't even know.
I've only read like 1 or 2 articles about it. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong in understanding this. They want to limit password sharing by making it so that you have to log in to a specific Wi-Fi location within 30 days, or else you have to you're charged an extra fee per user or something, right?
Yeah, that's what I have been gathering. Also from no firsthand knowledge again. Only from people complaining on TikTok and Twitter.
If you're looking for credible news sources,
this is not it.
If you're looking for sus resources, this is the news source for you.
Everything we say is alleged. Don't sue us. We're speaking opinions only. That's so wild because what about people who travel? I saw that guy who was Billie Eilish's brother, with Phineas or something, the guy who produces all of her stuff. Yes. He even tweeted about it and was like, I'm going to cancel Netflix. Like, how am I supposed to have a home Wi-Fi when I'm traveling 90% of the time on my tours? It's like, okay, sure, not everyone's going to have your tour problem, but people still do travel a lot.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What are you supposed to do?
And also, is the ad version is that separate from the whole added user?
I forgot about the whole ad thing, honestly. And so
honestly, this just makes me think that they're not making any money or they're not profitable, which is probably true.
Oh, they're 100%.
And so why are they spending all that money on the dating shows? They have been really leaning into A, dating shows, and B, docuseries.
Oh my, because dating shows and I'm sure docuseries are pretty cheap for them. Like they don't have to pay the talent as much. Although they paid Harry and Meghan a shit ton. So that one, not as much, but the dating shows for sure, they're just not paying the cast and getting basically free content out of these people.
Would you ever, after having Netflix for so long, go back to an ad-based Netflix plan? Because we have an ad-based Hulu plan.
That is true. But I don't watch Hulu that often anyway because of the ads. And I don't know, it just feels wrong to have ads on Netflix. It just goes against the core belief of that company.
Sometimes, I don't know. I saw this article about Netflix a week ago. It just reminded me that they started off as a DVD rental company. And it just blows my mind that now they've just become such a streaming giant. It's very fascinating to me.
Instead of focusing on 70 dating shows, they should just be producing 4 good shows with that money. And then people would choose to pay for this password sharing, whatever thing that they have.
Speaking of internet streaming giants, I have a game. Okay. Fuck, marry, kill. Fuck, marry, kill.
Okay.
Any of the streaming platforms.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you 3. Just like pick from the plethora of platforms out there.
Oh, God.
Wait, I'll go first. I can go first because I've been thinking about this.
Okay, yeah, you go first.
I would fuck HBO, even though we don't pay for it. I would marry Netflix, even though they're constantly hoeing us. I feel the most loyalty to Netflix. I've been with them the longest. They were the first ones that I paid for, / my mom actually pays for. I still don't pay for it, but I think, pay for it. I think it has the most diverse content. Yeah. It has some good hits, but some really terrible ones. And so it's just like, I think a good mix. Kill. I think I would kill Peacock. I think it just like
that's fair.
Box me into all the stuff that I want to watch. Like, why can't you just create a partnership with one of the major ones? Like, why do you have to pull your shows onto your own platform? It's just such a hoe move.
Okay. My kill is Hulu. I think the algorithm is so dumb. It's very hard to find. Why, if I finish an episode, are you still showing me the title and not moving me to the next episode? Like, why? I think my marry is actually HBO lately because they have acquired all of my favorite rewatches and shows that I like to just put on.
They stole like them from Diaries, Netflix.
One Tree Hill, The OC. Yeah. They stole them, but you know, they have them, so we'll marry. And then fuck Netflix. I think fuck Netflix because of the dating shows. Like, stop having so many. Go back to your good stuff. Why did it take you a year and a half to put on? Wait.
I think we have different definitions of what's good out there, because I think they have some really great dating shows, and Outer Banks sucks.
Okay, fair. I'm an Outer Banks stan. Those are the kind of dumb shows I like on Netflix. Although, you know what? Netflix renewed Manifest for a season 4, and for that I will forever be grateful.
I think the last really good Netflix show that I watched was when we watched Wednesday, like a good Netflix original series. But I hear Wednesday is now transitioning to another platform,
to Amazon Prime, because Amazon bought the Addams Family like rights.
Prime wasn't even like on my list. Our main topic for today, I think, will be really interesting for many of our listeners, our 20 listeners who are all of our family and friends, but hopefully 50 people.
50 people now.
A quick thank you to all of our 50 listeners, even the ones that are listening on mute, but that we bullied into listening to give us the listen. All right. Our topic for today is about the current unemployment dilemma, layoff situation that is happening in America right now. I think this is US specific. I don't know if you've heard of anything else in like the UK or the EU in general at all about this, but I think this is very specific to the UK I think this is very specific to the US and more so around the tech sector. Although I do just want to like make a point right now. I don't think this is specifically tied to the tech industry. I think the tech industry is just the most buzzy about this.
No.
And I do want to like take a moment and say that there are probably a lot of people getting laid off right now in other industries, smaller companies that may not be getting the same amount of attention or like sympathy and empathy that a lot of people in tech are receiving right now. And even though in tech you are laid off, usually these companies are able to offer some really great severance packages, and so many people get laid off on the daily with almost nothing.
Yeah. And to your point that this is mainly in the US, I think it's because labor laws are much stricter in Europe which is why it's much harder to do these mass layoffs.
I just wanted to first, like, I saw this LinkedIn post today, and I feel like for LinkedIn for me has just become like how Instagram used to make me feel a year ago. Like I need to get off of it. It's just too depressing to be on, but you just can't help watch the train wreck. I saw
Fair.
this post today, and she was just laying out what the kind of situations that her network is facing. So one friend interviewed at 4 companies, and each one required 6 to 8 rounds of interviews and then told them that they felt like they needed more time to decide.
Oh my God.
One friend went through 5 rounds of interviews only to get the offer
What
on
the
the
fuck?
weekend, but because they didn't respond within a day, got their offer rescinded. Like, what? This is psychotic.
That's a company you wouldn't want to work out anyway.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the weekend? That's
3 friends were
ridiculous.
lowballed. Their starting salary range was 90K because they were laid off. They were told 70K would be the best and final in this market.
Lowballing is really popular right now. I think they're just trying to take advantage of these situations, and that's really cruel.
I think it's interesting to see what's happening with the new requirement for companies to list their ranges on their job postings and seeing which companies are actually sticking true and offering reasonable ranges. Like, remember, we've seen these like really wide ranges from like 50K to like
Yeah,
150K. And it's like, what is accurate here?
nothing. Like nothing is accurate when your range is 100K.
So I
That's a
think like
joke.
a lot of our discussions these days, and I don't know, maybe it's because of the industries that we're in and the friends that we have in our network right now, but a lot of conversations with my friends and my network around layoffs, the difficulty of like finding jobs, just like the difficulty of like the interview process itself and the upcoming recession has just made everyone very nervous and jittery. And so we just wanted to spend the time in this episode to kind of like talk about my experience and also your experience as well. But I think my experience will be a lot more relevant just because I did recently lose my job at the end of this past year and just started a new job, as I kind of mentioned in maybe like a past episode or earlier this episode. And I will say it has been a wild and emotional ride. So if you're listening to this episode and you are feeling a bunch of different emotions, just want to say like your feelings and emotions are validated and everyone is having a really hard time. And I think we just have to weather through this and put the best foot forward. And I'll give some tips on what I did. But if you're listening, I just think like our main intention for this episode is to kind of shed light on what's happening from like one or two people's like perspective. And I don't know, maybe it will just be really enlightening.
Definitely. And just to give you guys some background on our job trajectories so far, we both graduated from UT with accounting degrees, went into consulting Big Four, and then switched to smaller startups in 2021, pretty much around the same time, like May, June 2021. That switch is interesting just because we went from huge firms to mine was more of a mid-sized startup. Uchen's was extremely small. And there's just a lot more instability at smaller companies because, less revenue, it's more fight or flight.
I will say both different types of companies, like corporate jobs versus startups, all have clown moments. So many clown moments in corporate America, so many clown moments
100%.
in startups. But I think like the type of clown moments are just very different.
Extremely different. I think the clown moments in our big companies were less like, is this company going to survive? Or like, how are we functioning? How does our data make no sense? And more around like just silly process things. Oh, I feel like it's more interesting, but it's definitely just very different.
One piece of advice, I don't know if this is advice, but just a comment that someone had made to me, I think like 2 years ago when I was asking him about just like joining a startup in general. And he was just a few years older than us. And he said that you're going to hate your first job no matter what. You're going to think you're going to like your second job, but you're actually not. And then the third job is when things are actually starting to like kick in a little bit better for you. So I think we're both on our third job.
Do you think this counts as my second?
This is your third.
The reason we're asking is because my first two jobs were at Big Four. So it was like,
yeah,
same
but you
story,
thought,
different color.
You would like the second one better. I think your trajectory like fits this very well.
That's true. That's true. And I do like this job, my current job a lot more than I liked either of the first two. And I really went into the second one with so much hope. And for the first few months, I did like it. And then it went downhill.
I think it's also because
fast.
didn't you start like a little bit pre-COVID? And I think COVID really messed up the type of projects that we were working on within like corporate America.
Definitely 100%. COVID really changed that trajectory for me. But it is what it is, and got me to where I am
think
now.
The statement that he made is super spot on, because that's how I feel too. Like I'm on my third one, and even though I just started, so who knows, maybe it is actually a shit show. But I think like fingers crossed not, but I think this is going to suit me a lot better than like what my first and second job was.
That's good. I think you went from, I don't know if this is like the right way to put it, but like a very stable workplace to an extremely, extremely unstable workplace to now finding the middle of both, where it's a lot more interesting, but you're not having to deal with the extreme instability that you were in your second job. Just like chaos of having 30 people run this whole company.
We're 4 or 5 years out of college. Is that right? I lose track of time. Maybe it's smaller. I think so. Like with each job change and each year, we just have a better understanding of like the type of environment that we like working on, the type of work that we like working on. And for me, I'm also realizing the size and the stage of the company is also really important to me in like where I am in my career right now.
Yeah. So getting into the story of your layoff specifically, take us back to 24 hours of like when you kind of had the inkling, because I know you had a little bit of an inkling when you got the meeting invite, to what happened right after, how you felt that day.
Yeah, I'm glad like we're able to talk about this in such a casual manner, because remember, it was just not casual for me. And you were kind of the only one that experienced it with me kind of firsthand, because we tell everything to each other. But I think the reason why I had an inkling that this was happening was because 4 months prior, I had lost my direct manager, the one that initially hired me. And I think when you work for a small company of around like 40 people within like your headquarter hub, you just kind of understand the like way that direct reports kind of fit into the overall company. And I was part of the strategy group at that time, which also, if you're in like the startup world, you kind of understand which functions are more at risk of layoffs than others. As you'll see like on LinkedIn currently with all the tech companies too, like I think HR is a really great example of one of the first groups to get cut, as well as like sales and marketing. And so I think just like being in that line in general just made me a little bit antsy in the first place. And when she left, I've had a few conversations with people in the company. And I don't know, this might be like a clownish moment for them, but I did not feel safe at the company when I spoke with a lot of people that were maybe in like senior leadership. But when you speak with the people that I was working with on a day-to-day basis, I felt very integral to the company. So I was just like, I don't know. And also a lot of my work was driven by the relationship that my direct manager had with a lot of the other senior leaders in the company. And so when she left, there was just a lot of uncertainty about which group that I would fall under and who I would report into. I think we were also going through a lot of turnover at that time. And so leadership, first and foremost, I think kind of struggled with where to put me. And I think like what I learned from just that piece of the puzzle is that when you're like looking for a new job, especially with stability being my key word for 2023, I wanted a stable role that was very, very integral to the company that I'd be joining. And so that's what I learned throughout that entire summer. Like after she had left, I decided to like put some feelers out. I was also like interviewing. I was also at this company for about a year and a half. And I initially joined this company to get a really great understanding of the retail industry, the direct to consumer business model. And after that year and a half, like that experience was great in giving me that detailed industry level experience. But I felt like there was diminishing returns in what I was actually learning on the job. And then after she left, I felt like the role wasn't structured enough for me, which is why I was putting feelers out too. And at the same time, having some iffy conversations with senior leadership that just made me feel uncertain. And so the day that it happened, that was a very long-winded background, but hopefully that actually helped someone or was just interesting to hear. But the day that it happened, I get a check-in on Friday from who I was reporting up to at that time with like no agenda. Which first off, if you're like putting a check-in in someone's calendar, like put an agenda item or at least like let someone know.
Now, if someone does that to me, I ping them immediately and I say, "What's this about? You better tell me right now."
I texted you.
You had texted me too. And I was like, no, it's totally fine. In June, my company had layoffs, and like one of my coworkers who I was super tight with also texted me something like very similar. And even at that time, I was like, no way. Like, I don't even know what that means, but no way. Like, we're going through layoffs. Even when you did, I again was fully back in the mindset of, no, she just wants to talk about like something that you guys have to do like ASAP.
Denial
Friday.
is
like, no
the first
deal.
step. But then you also have this just like inkling feeling. And it's like the woman intuition that people talk about around dating. But this is like true with layoffs too. You just kind of know. I don't think like I was truly I mean, I was shocked, but that feeling was there. And I admit that I had it. But I wonder if I had it because you were telling me what happened in your company in the summer. And it just made me like keep an eye out for it.
It was very eerily similar.
Most like smallish startup companies do this where they will not give you a heads up about it and it just comes very suddenly. I remember someone talking to me and saying like, oh, my skip level put some time on my calendar to discuss something in 2 weeks. He's like, either I'm getting promoted or I'm getting laid off. And I'm just like, trust me, if you're getting laid off, it's not a 2-week notice. It's a 24-hour notice or maybe like a meeting invite at like 1 a.m. in the morning. Okay. So I remember like pinging her and being like, what's the agenda? Like, do I have to prep for something? And she's like, no, just wanted to talk to you about a meeting that I had with someone else on our team. And I was like, okay, cool. I get to the meeting and I kind of immediately feel like something is off. And she just like went into like a very rehearsed spiel that brings back a lot of memories, but that part really shocked me because this person I knew to be a very personable manager, so very empathetic, and she was like a dead robot. And I just remember like blacking out during what she was saying, and she had HR join too during the entire time.
Totally.
And right after she said this like really rehearsed spiel, HR just went through this like really rehearsed spiel, and they just like was like bye, and that was it. And I got like disconnected from everything. At first, like, this is the first time that like something like this happened to me. And I was just like, what just happened? Is this normal? And I was just like, oh, maybe this is like normal. But then I remember like getting served TikToks maybe a month or two later after I've had time to process it. And people are just like, there are better ways to have had done that. And while I realized that
Definitely.
she was stuck in like a really hard place and having to like stick to a certain script, I do think that she could have done it a lot better and a lot more with a human touch. And I've also seen worse.
And Google just laid
Oh,
off
yes.
everyone via
There are so
email.
many savage ways that these companies are laying off people. And I just don't understand it. Like, why are they choosing to do it this way when there are so many other ways to do it? Google really surprised me. Like, them laying off people, not surprising. I think the way that they laid people off was really surprising. I will say what is like kind of clownish about what she told me was she had a very rehearsed speech, and part of it was saying that I wasn't performing up to like a certain standard. And I like that was like the biggest like what to me.
That's
because
funny.
I have never received performance feedback other than positive performance feedback. And I think the only negative performance feedback I received was that I didn't demonstrate a entrepreneurial mindset because I didn't offer certain people water when they came into the office. And how does that even tie in? How does that even tie into being entrepreneurial? I just did not understand.
I'm surprised that they brought up saying like it was poor performance, because don't you have to like have documented things to say that? Like, couldn't they be in some kind of legal trouble for even bringing that up
Yes, I don't know.
when it's not true because
I
they
don't
have
know.
never said
And
anything? I don't know the logistics of it, but that was like a dumb slip up on their end.
yeah, I think like
Bitter.
obviously, you know, I have a lot of thoughts into why they've removed my role. And I just want to like first and foremost say I actually, from a business perspective, probably agree with them to terminate my role. I don't think they strategically knew what to do with me as like a contributor to the company, because they didn't know where to like which department to put me under. They didn't have a strategy. And I was still like a mid-level employee. And so I think there just lacked a good employer-employee fit with the current position of the company. All that's to say is the reasoning was clownish. And you know, I've like talked to a lot of my friends about this. Some of them are like, honestly, you should look into like some legal advice, but it's not worth it. It's more just like, is it really worth your energy? And just to go back on the like level setting that I made earlier in this conversation, I was already like 1 foot out the door anyways. And although it's like shocking and like you're really upset at first, I only cried about it twice the entire time that of this like entire experience, which is the most shocking thing to me actually. But I think it speaks volume to how much I was kind of ready for my next role anyways. And
you knew this wasn't the right fit and it was just a matter of time, and in a way just forced you to do it quicker, which not a bad thing.
Remember I said this last year, like I never felt
I don't remember you saying
spoken
that.
to in April.
When was it?
when I was in a really bad place in April, and then my manager, who I love, left, just so many things tumbling down, and my manager leaving was kind of like the catalyst for all of this.
And you at that time were handling it so well. You were just like, this is a great opportunity for me. I was very impressed. I would be crying. For a second, my manager was going to like move to a different group and I was going to get a new manager. And I was like, I hate change. Don't do this to me.
Yeah. But at that moment, I was like, the universe is really speaking to me. When I got laid off, I really did feel like the universe was speaking to me as well, which is maybe why I handled it a lot better than I thought I would.
I definitely felt like that for you too.
Good.
When you told me, I was obviously like very upset for you, but I also was like, you'll be fine and you're going to find something way better. I'm not worried about that at all.
And for anyone that's going through this, you're probably hearing the same thing from your network too. Like so many supportive comments saying like, you'll get through, you'll find a new role, like no problem. And I do want to like recognize that when you're hearing that, it makes sense. Like it makes logical sense, but emotionally you don't feel it, which I think is like what I struggled with a lot. I will say I had tremendous support from my friends and family and my broader network. And I think that is one of the reasons why I was crying during this entire situation. Is I was actually in shock by how supportive everyone was, not by the situation that happened,
That's
but
nice.
like
Yeah.
actually so emotionally overwhelmed by how supportive everyone was. Like, of course, like you're my rock and like the first person that I tell, and then it's my parents. I will say the like most stressful part was the financial part of it all, but
Yeah.
I was able to collect unemployment and B, some severance. I didn't work at a tech company, so severance was really not that great, but it did like help me carry over just a few months of expenses that I would not have had if there was zero severance.
What do you think was like the best parts of your fun employment time? Like, what did you do to pass the time? What fun things did you do? How'd you make the most of it, basically?
I think also to level set here, I kept on calling it fun employment because I wanted to make sure that I was staying positive during this entire time and making the best out of it, because I do think that you kind of get into a depressive spiral when you're in this situation, especially with like financial responsibilities. I have rent in San Francisco, which is tough, and like uncertainty about healthcare and your next paycheck was really difficult. So with that, I called it fun employment, and I made sure that everyone else was on board that it was fun employment too, to just kind of keep the like tone alive in my day to day.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things that I did was I joined the AMC A-list pass, which you pay like a monthly fee and then you get to see unlimited movies, which just brought me back to our movie pass days.
Yes, we were avid movie pass holders. We had it our 5th year of college, which was like our quote unquote master's year, where we were just studying for the CPA. And we would study during the day and watch a movie at night. We'd probably watch 3 movies a week for months on end. We saw every movie that was in the theater, and it was the best time.
And I think like with the movie or the AMC pass, you get to watch 3 movies a week for max $25 a month. And sometimes you have to pay $25 for one movie in San Francisco. So it's totally worth it.
Especially the nice ones. My parents actually also have AMC Pass, and we have been watching Avatar a crazy amount of times just because it's like free.
And it also just like gave me some like dedicated time out of my apartment. I think like one thing that I would want to recommend people is to just like set some time, block time to focus on your job hunt, interviewing, but also like block dedicated time to enjoy life outside of job hunting, because sometimes it feels like without a job, you're constantly looking for jobs, and that can really seep into your daily personal life. And having that like distinction of like end of the quote unquote work day was really helpful in like me keeping my mental stability.
And I think what's unfortunate is that, especially in the US, like our society is so ingrained with the idea of working hard and like always having a job. And that's the most important thing. But that's really not. And if it was more normalized to just take breaks and like, it's okay, you don't have a job right now. You have enough money for the meantime to make it through, enjoy life. It's fine. I think the mindset in other countries is much better around these types of situations, and hopefully that will start to happen here as well.
I wish we would normalize job breaks in one's like resume or career. Because I also think that's what people are feeling stressed about when they get laid off too. They're like, I don't want this to like set back my career. I don't want to have to explain myself in interviews. And we shouldn't have to explain ourselves for like wanting a break. We're not meant to work every single week for the rest of our lives until retirement. Like this makes no sense. In France, everything is like shut down in like August. And I think we really need to adopt this policy. Basically, if you're trying to work with someone in France in the summer, they're like, what? No. Everyone is on vacation.
We need to live our lives as if we were Emily in Paris.
Yes.
And like work at 10 a.m. and go to a 2-hour lunch with wine and then maybe do a little bit of emails in the evening.
Just a little email.
Yeah, I agree that the work culture here is definitely something that is not good for anyone's health and needs a major rehaul.
All right. Another thing that I did for fun was I joined a dog walking app. And I highly recommend if you're an animal lover. But it's so clownish of me because, okay, first of all, I have a dog, but he's not with me because he's a lot to handle. He's unhinged. He's very cute, but he's unhinged. But first and foremost, he deserves a backyard, and I'm not able to provide him a backyard. And he's just living his best life being unhinged with my other dog, Sky, or my parents' dog, Sky, in their backyard. So all's well. But I do miss having a dog. So I was like, oh, in my free time, I'll just like watch dogs or like walk dogs because I love dogs. What's clownish of me is I get like emotionally attached to these dogs after like one day. When they leave my home, just like, I'll never see you again. I'm so upset. I get like so attached. Two is I think I'm a little allergic to dogs. I had this like
Really?
Yes. But luckily, like Leo and Sky,
oh my God,
they barely shed. But I had this client that I would go to their house, and they have two of these like short hair dogs. And they're so cute. They are so cute. But every time I go, my nose is bleeding, or not bleeding. My nose is running so much. I'm so uncomfy, and that's when I realized like I'm allergic to dogs.
Oh my God.
But if you're looking for something fun to do, maybe earn a little bit of extra cash on the side, highly recommend dog walking as long as you don't get attached to them.
Be an emotional vault.
It just helps to get out of the house sometimes too, especially when you're walking. Like exercise equals endorphins.
I think you were really good about walking all the time when you were in this like process.
Going on little mental health walks, important when you have a job, even more important when you don't have a job.
Thanks so much for listening. You can follow us on Insta at Town Vibes Podcast or email us at townvibespodcast@gmail.com.
If you like our show and want to support us, please like, subscribe, and give us a review. That's it for today. Bye, clowns.
Bye, clowns.